Buckle up, friends, because today's guest is truly super fantastic. Gary Gregory is not only a multi selling author, nationwide speaker, but also a husband of 31 years and a proud dad to four incredible kiddos. He has dedicated his life to helping leaders not just do leadership, but steward it. His newest book, Super Fantastic Leadership, Dare to Be Not Normal, is a rally cry for leaders everywhere to stop settling for average and start standing out by leading differently. He's here to show us how to make our leadership truly super fantastic. Gary, welcome to the show. It's an absolute yes to have you here. Welcome to the Yes Show. I'm your host, Christine Trippi. Each week, we'll explore the life-changing power of saying yes, along with hotel leadership made easy. Get ready for inspiration, fun, and sweet hospitality. Let's go. Gary, you said yes to co-authoring a book, and now you have 8 of them. And I have 3 right here. My bookshelf is filled with you, Gary.
You're behind. I got to get you more of my books.
I know I need more Gary books. They're super fantastic books. Now, tell us a little bit about that journey, that first yes, and where you were in your life and how it happened.
Well, the great part of that story is I call it accidental, but I know there was a plan for it to occur. And so what happened is I was following a motivational speaker on LinkedIn. And I thought this gentleman was outstanding. He just had really great information. And so it just so happened that he was going to be in my town. He was doing a motivational seminar, kind of an open motivational seminar. I was like, I've got to go see this guy. I've been following him on LinkedIn. I love his work. I actually had bought one of his books. I was just like, man, this guy's really cool. He's someone I, admire.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to his motivational seminar, and like a good nerd I am, I got there super early because I just wanted to get there early and check things out and, be a part of the scene of, how
Yeah.
things are. Well, I ended up speaking with the presenter, and our conversation, he was very in the moment with me, and we just had a great conversation. And one of the things that we talked about, I don't know how it bubbled up in the conversation, is he asked me, or I told him, someday I would love to write a book. It had been kind of on my radar, just kind of one of those bucket list items, but I never really thought, never knew how that it would
Uh-huh.
happen. And so it was just an off the cuff remark in our total conversation. And so I went to the motivational seminar. It was fantastic, tons of notes. It was great, a lot of people. So it was just a wonderful event. After it was over, I said thank you and went about my way. 2 weeks later, this guy calls me and says, hey, Gary, remember when you told me you were interested in writing a book? My eyes got real big and I kind of hesitated a moment and I said, yes, I do remember me mentioning that to you off the cuff. He shared that he was getting a group together to co-author a
Oh,
book
a
together,
group. Okay.
a group. And he said, do you want to join the group and co-author part of this book? And in that moment on the phone with him, I was still kind of, one, I was surprised that he called me after, a couple of weeks. Two, he remembered the conversation. And then
Mm.
three, he asked me this pretty intense question, do you want to co-author a book? I knew nothing about writing books, nothing about writing anything for that matter, except, for short little blogs. And in that moment, I had a decision. I could do one of two things. I could say no, and that would be the end of that. And who knows what would have happened after that? Could have regretted it. Maybe I would found another opportunity, but that's an unknown. It was a choice I could have made to say no and potentially never have the opportunity to do that.
Right.
But in that moment, I chose the other option. I said yes. I said yes to co-authoring a book with him and a few other authors, even though I had no idea how to write a book, what to do, what I was going to
Who
write on.
else was involved?
Who else was involved? I didn't know any of the other authors, what the concept of the book was going to
Yeah,
be, or what
it could have been something really racy.
could have could have been anything. I would have said no after the yes, but I said yes, and he's like, wonderful. Send me a sample of some writing.
Oh,
and I'll follow up with you to see if, everything kind of jives and you can join the co-author group. So I sent him my writing and he said, "All right, you're in the co-author group."
wow.
And in that moment, through that process, he met with all of us. He shared with us, kind of the theme and the concept of the book and what he was, the expectations. He laid it all out very clear and understandable of what he was wanting from us as a part of this co-author book.
Hmm.
And he helped us through the process. He helped us, submitted sample writings. He sent back, feedback and everything. But we went through this process together with him mentoring and leading us
You could
and
have paid thousands of dollars for,
thousands of
oh
dollars for
my
this
God, that
experience.
what an
And
amazing.
it was absolutely amazing. I didn't know what to do, didn't know how to do it, but through the process with him helping us through, we ended up finishing this book, co-authored together with a group of other authors that a few of them I still stay in touch with to this
Oh,
day.
nice.
And that book got released, and it ended up becoming a number one bestseller, new release on Amazon. And
Amazing.
it was amazing. It was such an incredible experience. And I backtrack it all the way to your question to say yes to something that scared the out of me
Hmm.
that I didn't know how to do, but I still said yes because what an experience, what an opportunity to do something that was on my bucket list in some capacity along with the other things.
Right.
And I said yes to it. He helped us along, and then we did it. And not only did we do it, it was extremely successful.
Okay, I've got some questions here.
Yeah.
One, are you going to share who it was?
Yeah, it was a gentleman named Mike Rodriguez.
Mike Rectory. Okay.
Mike Rodriguez, he's got several books out. Just
Okay.
an
I
incredible,
don't know of Mike Rodriguez, so I'm writing that down. Everybody write that down.
yeah,
We'll look him
Mike
up too.
Rodriguez, his books are absolutely amazing. They're on sales and leadership and
Okay.
just some of my favorite books that
Awesome.
that I have on
Now,
my bookshelf behind me.
which book was it that you co-authored? Was it one of the eight?
Yes, so
Okay.
it is one that is called I haven't it's called Living Beyond Purpose.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
That one. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting. That was with other people.
right.
This is so interesting because not only did you say yes to this opportunity, but how many of us really love a thought leader out there and we see they're coming to town and, oh, I'm busy. I'm this. You said yes to taking time away from your day, your busy life. You've got four kids and a wife. You've got a lot of things going on in your life. And you said, yes, I'm going to go see him. Then you said yes to stepping up and talking to him. Do you know how many people would be like, oh, no, I can't do that? Right? There's so many yeses in this story. And I want to know, where do you get the cojones, the super fantastic cojones to
That
just,
sounds like a good book title.
yeah, to step forward and do that? Is that typically you through your life, or was that just something that called you?
Well, interestingly enough, normally in my kind of my normal state, I'm an introvert. So doing
Okay.
those things is extremely difficult for me
Yes.
to get out and talk to people and to say all the yeses to all these things. It's
Hmm.
extremely difficult for me. But out of high school, before I went to college, I made a decision. I said, listen, Gary, through high school, you were an extreme introvert, and now you're headed to college, and things have got to change. You can either stay the same and just kind of be a wallflower and maybe
Hmm.
not pursue or accomplish very much because you're too afraid to go take that next step. And so I made that decision out of high school going into college that, you know what, even though in my natural state I'm an introvert, I made the decision to say, you know what? I got to get out of that. I've got to do more. I've got to take these chances
Hmm.
to say yes to different things along the way. And I share with you, there's so many different yeses along my entire life
Yeah.
journey that had I just stayed in my comfort zone, my default nature of being an introvert, I would
Right.
have missed out on so much. I mean,
Yes.
I can't tell you the volume of stories from, simply meeting my wife at college and in my natural state as an introvert, I'd have never would have gone up to her and talked to her, but because I'd made that decision, that commitment
Right.
to myself to do what's uncomfortable, I went up and talked to her. 31 years later, we're still married with 4 kids, and it was the most amazing thing ever.
Love that.
And
Love
so, I recognized when you're committed to being uncomfortable, a lot of great things happen on the other side of that. I mean,
Yes.
there's just so many different things. Sometimes
Life.
life
Life is
happens,
on the other side of yes.
successful life. Now, you can have a life under default, introvert saying no to everything. You can certainly have a life,
Mhm.
but what kind of life, how's
But
that
is it
working out for you?
living?
Is it truly living? But if you make that decision, extrovert, introvert, and just say, you know what, I'm going to do that extra, I'm going to take that step, I'm going to raise my hand and do more, then it just opens up the world to you for so many more opportunities. And I'm so thankful because even through the failures, even through the successes, all the different things that happen on the other side of yes, I can look back and say, you know what? It's been worth it. I've learned so much. I've had the experience from it. I've got the knowledge. I have the wisdom from the failures and the successes. And so
Hmm.
I'm going to continue to say yes. I'm going to
Yes.
continue to look for those opportunities. I'm going to raise my hand where I can, or if something comes towards me, like you, Christine, and saying, "Hey, do you want to join the
Do you want
podcast?"
me to show?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is really the crux of everything I talk about in the keynote. There,
Mhm.
you think about yes as the answer from where I talk about it as customer service and team member experience and everything. But ultimately, it starts with identifying where are you being in negative in your life, and this is
Ooh.
exactly what you did. We are biologically made up and prone to lean into that negative
Yeah.
and that knee-jerk reaction of no. That's how we
Hmm.
naturally act. But if we create the awareness on where we're being negative, then we can be intentional about saying yes and opening ourselves up to these opportunities. And that is exactly what you did. You recognize where you're being negative or where you're shutting down opportunities.
Yeah.
And you said, I'm going to intentionally get uncomfortable and say yes to these things. And look what it's done for you. Now, what was your job when that happened?
Well, I was working in the multifamily industry,
Okay.
and so this was just something that was just so out of my career, if you will. And it was my occupation in multifamily, but my vocation, I created a vocation.
Oh.
And vocation, if you will, is the things that you want to do. Occupation is the things that you do. You make a living, it pays the bills or whatever. The vocation is the things that you want to do. Maybe at some point in time, your vocation can turn into an occupation, but the
Hmm.
vocation piece is like, what are my hobbies? What are my interests? What are the things that just you know, make my eyes, open
My
up
heart
real
pound.
wide, my heart pound. What is that? What are those things that I can build as a vocation and do? Like, is it writing books? Is it running? Is it whatever it may be? You have to find something that is outside your occupation and build a vocation. You're learning things, you're learning tasks, you're learning workflows and processes, or just
Mhm.
getting, like you said, getting your heart pounding, whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, those vocational things that you learn, you do, and you kind of have fun with, they end up applying into your occupation life as well.
Yes.
So it's so great. I love it when I see and talk to people that say, you know what, outside of work, I do XYZ. I run marathons, or I love 5Ks, or I love to read books, or I like to paint, or whatever those
Hmm.
things are. It gets them excited, so they're just not coming home, sitting down on the couch and binging Netflix series. They have something that just elevates their life. And so they're building that positivity that they can take to their occupation,
Yeah, and you never know where it can take you. Absolutely. And some
right?
people, like my sister, she loves making these craft cards and they're gorgeous. And we always tell her, you should sell these. She's like, no, because then it's a job. I do it because I love to do it and I love to give them as gifts. I don't want to do it for a job.
Right.
Yeah, and so I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Now, your newest book, Super Fantastic Leadership, got it
Look
right.
at that.
I love how it's dare to be normal. What? for
Dare to be
you,
not normal.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, dare to be not normal. Sorry. What does not normal leadership mean to you, and why do we need more of it?
Well, I tell you, a lot of normality, if you will, is what you see in, day out. So it's essentially you're stepping into your job and you just do the things, or you live by a checklist. And
Right.
that's normal. That's where you'll find the vast majority of people live a normal life in regards to their occupation. Hey, let me get in there, let me do this for my, 9 to 5, I clock in, clock out, and then I'm back home.
Mm.
Now, if you're comfortable being normal, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I like to share is when you dare to raise your hand and you dare to say, you know what, I have an idea, or you dare to raise your hand and you say, hey, I've got a suggestion. Or you raise your hand and you say, you know what? I'd be interested in being a part of this or a part of that. Or I'd like to, I see something that I think would be valuable for the company. And you raise your hand and you say, you know what? I want to be a part of that committee that, will benefit the company. So not normal is the person, the leader, if you will. Normal's the manager. Not normal is the leader where you raise your hand, you're stepping up and you're stepping out to say, look, there's more than just the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of managers live and die by the checklist, but there's a lot more outside that checklist box. If you just simply raise your hand, you have an awareness, and Christine, you mentioned it earlier, there's awareness that there's more out there. And if you
Yes.
simply look around, something's going to spark your attention, and then raise your hand and get into it, be a part of it. And that's when your supervisor looks at you and says, you know what? Hey, Gary just raised his hand, or Christine just raised her hand. She's she's got some value that can add to this company. And once people are aware of you because you raised your hand, that's when you start climbing the ladder because you simply raised your hand and engaged or added value to your day-to-day job. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think not normal is simply getting out of that checklist, raising your hand, engaging more than just what you would do if you were just walking around checking the checkbox on the checklist.
Yeah, I'm sure there's so much in the book, and I just got mine, so I haven't dug into everything. I just made a few notes here of a couple things I'm going to
Yeah.
bring up. But let's just say you're a hotel general manager, and
Hmm.
you may or may not know this, but the life is daunting. There
Oh,
can
I
be
imagine.
it can be very daunting, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right? You want to be that leader, that raise your hand leader, but you come in, you're doing all the things, they're putting out the fires. Are there any guides in the book? Are there any thoughts on for the person who's just trying to get through each day of what that looks like? Like, when do I raise my hand? I'm the general manager here. My boss isn't here with me every day.
Hmm.
And what that looks like, how to inspire yourself and be intentional. Are there any ideas, lists, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's just a matter of understanding that, again, it's all about awareness. And a lot of times, I don't know all the details, hotel management, but multifamily is very similar. It's daunting. There are a ton
Mm-hmm.
of checklists, a lot of expectations, but not everything is on that checklist. And if you see something, say something. If you recognize an opportunity somewhere, somehow, some way, then that's where you have an opportunity to raise your hand. And so it's a matter of, instead of walking around with your checklist and just checking off, okay, we checked the grounds, we
Did
checked the bathrooms, we checked, the
mm-hmm.
dining facilities or whatever it may be. We did all the housekeeping.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else could we do? And
Yeah.
it's always an intentionality with it to say, look, I'm going to walk around because I need to do the checklist is, that's minimum expectation
Mm-hmm.
is that checklist. But what else could you do? What else through your awareness and intentionality as you're walking around could you add value or value could be added because you have a suggestion or an idea.
Hmm.
A lot of times what I see, the multifamily industry, and I imagine it's in other industries as well, is a lot of leaders or managers, if you will do their checklists and they'll wait for their company to train them.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, they'll train me, so I'm just gonna do my checklist, and whenever they schedule a training, I'll join the training, and if I learn something great, if not, I'll just get back to my checklist. One of the things that I talk about in the book is opportunities to train yourself, to figure out opportunities. What else is there? What more can you do for yourself? Because if you wait for your company to train you, they'll probably train you to do your job. They'll train you to do it exactly how they want you to do it.
Hmm.
Now, if you step back and you say, hey, you know what? I'm in the hotel hospitality management industry. And my company, maybe they do a great job of training. They've got a variety of different trainings, but what they are training you to do is exactly what they want you to do to be successful at your job title, at your job for their company. Now, if you step back and you say, what else is there? Is there other associations I can join? Are there other webinars that maybe I can search out? I can Google and figure out what other webinars. Maybe I can jump onto a Yes webinar somewhere to figure out something new and unique. Maybe
Hmm.
there's a book I can read, like Unreasonable Hospitality, that
Hmm.
inspires me. And so I encourage people, don't just take the training that your company offers you. Don't just do that, do more. Find opportunities to engage yourself in inspiration and
Hmm.
look for those opportunities, webinars, books, associations, whatever it may be that can inspire you. And maybe there's just a spark through a webinar, and you say, you know what? I just watched this cool TEDx from Christine Trippy, and one of the coolest things that I saw on that TEDx was, you know what? We have a negative bias. You showed this picture of a stoplight, or a rather a traffic light, and the vast majority of the people in your audience said stoplight. Like 97% of people will call it a stoplight and not a go light. And maybe that's just, a
The
spark that I
aha.
needed, aha moment. But we never get those aha moments if we just sit in our checklist or we just sit in our chair doing what the company tells us. We have to do a little extra. We have to have some awareness and find those things where you can find those sparks. And this little spark from maybe Christine's TEDx talk creates an idea that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this at my company, or I'm going to raise my hand and say, you know what? I have an idea. We're doing XYZ here. What if we just added a little ABC to our XYZ and it becomes a game
Super
changer?
fantastic.
It becomes super fantastic. But that's what it takes
Yes.
to do that. It's intentionality and
Right.
it's awareness to do more than just what your company wants you to do.
Yes. And even I remember when I was a general manager, I would drive into work. I had an hour and a half commute each
Oof.
way, and 3 hours round trip each
Oh
day
God.
for 8 years. And I remember I would listen to books on tape or on
Hmm.
CD, and that would give me my huddle topic almost every single day. I would hear
Right.
something I'm like, oh, I'm going to do that in huddle today. I'm going to do that in huddle today. And then you can spark the fire of others. Now, for me, I think what is a real driver of this mentality is being curious. When we
Oh.
go through our day, just getting through the day instead of
Hmm.
stopping each place and going, why is that?
Hmm.
How does that, what would it look like if we did it this way? But just constantly asking you, stopping and asking questions,
Yeah.
asking your team members, oh, tell me what it feels like to run the bistro all by yourself. Tell me what frustrates you. One of the things I do onboarding a new team member is we had our Be Our Guest program. And that's where
Mm.
they got to be the guests. They did a whole scavenger hunt. And afterwards, I would debrief it with them and I'd say, you know what? What frustrated you as a guest. What
Mm.
confused you? We learned so much on how we can improve what we do by being curious.
Yeah.
So walking through your day with curiosity, you've got that checklist, and after each check, ask a
Like,
question.
what if? Yeah.
What if? Yeah, and that's
I,
a good one
I,
too. What if? What if we could do this faster? What if we could do this friendlier?
yeah.
What if we could do this more super fantastic?
And I absolutely agree with you, Christine. And I think a lot of us will hesitate to raise our hand or say what if or ask those questions because we fear the no. And you know what? The no is just a two-letter word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is. It's a no is just simply a pause and then on to the next.
Or no is a maybe, that's a future yes.
Correct. And so I think a lot of us see that no as a failure, like, oh my gosh, I had an idea and they said no. I'm a failure. I missed that, or I missed the mark on asking the right questions. You know what? It's a future yes. So let me go back and reevaluate it.
Mhm.
Maybe I can tweak a few things. Maybe I can ask a few more what ifs. Maybe I can get a little more curious. Maybe I can have a little more awareness about the process. And then I'll just kind of tweak my question and ask it again.
Yeah.
It's okay. A no is just a
And if
temporary
anybody
pause.
gives you a no, you just send them my book. Gary, you talk about stewarding leadership in this book.
Mm.
That's a powerful word. How
Yeah.
does stewardship differ from just leading?
Well, I think as a leader, we have a responsibility to our role, if you will. So
Hmm.
we've been entrusted. So if you get hired by a company, that company has entrusted you. They're trusting you to do the things that they've asked you to do. And so you have to steward that trust
Hmm.
so that you accomplish all the things that they need you to do. And as you go through it, and we just talked about there's opportunities to be curious and intentional about awareness and so forth. But it's bottom line, you're stewarding that responsibility the company has entrusted into you
Hmm.
because that ties to your integrity.
Hmm.
And if you can't steward that trust from your company, then you're kind of you're compromising your integrity or you're compromising your name. And so
Hmm.
guess what? If you don't steward that well, then you maybe get fired, maybe you get bored and you quit and you try to get another job somewhere else. It's a small world. It's
Hmm.
an extremely small world. So
Yes.
if you compromise your integrity, you compromise your name because you're not stewarding the trust, getting another opportunity, you're going to eventually meet somebody that used to work for that company that recognizes your name. And if you weren't stewarding that trust well, then you're probably not going to get an opportunity somewhere else.
Hmm.
But stewardship is not only for yourself, but it's also for your team. If you're leading a group, you also have the responsibility to steward that group as well. Stewarding, again, is just taking responsibility and accountability to make sure they are successful. Because when your team's successful, guess who's successful? You are. The leader
Hmm.
is successful, but only when your team is successful. And the only way to do that is to steward their opportunities, to steward their training, to steward their functionality throughout the day to make sure they have the right information, the right tasks, the right checklist, the right information. And
Right.
that is part of being a leader is understanding the trust that has been put on you, not only just hiring you, but the team that rolls up to you, that reports to you. That's that's a lot
It's a big
to
responsibility. The way you describe it kind of reminds me of something I talk about with onboarding again.
Mhm.
And I'll do an activity that's really engaging and really puts you in the guest shoes. And I have in one of the corners, I have that employee, the one that's like on their phone, I'm on a break, I'm not, not engaging at all. And we've all had that employee. But I
Uh,
love to ask the group, how many of you have ever been in a situation where you said you will never go back to that restaurant, that hotel ever again because of this one employee?
mm.
I think we've all been in that situation.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And that is something really responsible to, or really impactful to remember that every single one of us that walks the halls of our hotels or our restaurants or our retail stores, we show up and we impact every person in that company. So with
Yeah.
Marriott, we have over 3,000 hotels. I still say we,
Mm.
they have over 3,000 hotels. That's hundreds of thousands of team members. And if
Hmm.
one guest doesn't come back to our brand because of that one associate,
Oh,
that's a lot of stewardship that you walk into every single day. How you
exactly.
show up every day impacts all of them.
Yep.
And so
And
that's a
then
really important thing to remember and own.
exactly. And one of the things also that I love to share is, and I quote this in my book, and it's from a an author and a leader, a thought
Mm,
leader named Keith Craft. He says, "How you do anything is how you do everything."
yeah.
So if you pick up the trash, even though it may not be your direct responsibility, if you pick up the trash and you are the best trash picker upper that day, then guess what? Your team's going to perceive you as being the best at everything that you do. But if you
Mm,
begrudgingly go pick up that piece of trash, even though it's not your direct job responsibility, guess what? Everyone else is going to perceive how you do everything else
begrudgingly. Yeah.
begrudgingly.
I
So,
love that visual. That was
yeah.
such a great visual.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so how you do anything is how other people will perceive you do everything.
Right.
So whatever you do, do it to the best of your ability. Be the most super fantastic trash picker upper,
Mm.
housekeeper, um, filling the pins in the front desk cup person you've ever seen. Be excited about, replenishing the coffee. I mean, whatever you're doing,
Showing
do
up
it
to
with
huddle.
showing up to huddle with like, I'm ready. I'm here. Be that. I mean, if you're an introvert like me, you don't necessarily have to say, hey, scream and holler, jump up and down that you're here. But you know what? You're there. You're ready. You've got your notepad, and you know what?
Hmm.
That leader's recognizing, and your team members are like, dude, Gary's prepped and ready. He's,
Gary's ready.
any and everything that Gary does, he does it like.
Right.
And I want to kind of emulate Gary because he's pretty awesome, that, and then you start recognizing that influence.
Yes.
Even if you're not the leader, even if your job title doesn't say manager, general manager, or whatever it is, and you are, whatever your job title is, but it's not the leader, you're still a leader.
Yes.
Be the best at it. Go replace that coffee like that coffee in the moment is the most important thing
Hmm.
ever because
Yes.
because what happens afterwards, after you replenish that coffee, you got a guest come in and they're either going to get a stale cup of cold coffee or they're going to get a cup of the hottest, freshest coffee in the morning and they'll be like, ooh, Marriott's fantastic in
Hmm.
Topeka, Kansas. So you know what? Probably in Atlanta, Georgia, I bet they got great coffee too. That's stewarding that responsibility, regardless if you're the leader or not. So
Yes.
yeah.
I love it. Stewarding. I love it. Okay, let's get to a real heart matter that is impacting a lot of people today, especially in hospitality. Many leaders struggle with the burnout. It's like we already mentioned, it can be daunting what we do. I mean, it's so rewarding and it's so fulfilling, but it is challenging. So, what is one super fantastic shift that any leader listening today can make to reclaim their energy and their effectiveness?
I think that's a good thing, and I heard it recently. Someone shared this, so I'm going to steal it.
Okay.
But it's also been part of my process as well. Is when you get to that burnout point, pause a moment and ask yourself why.
Hmm.
Why are you doing what you're doing? And what is truly what you are doing? A lot of us forget the impact of what we do means. And so, for example, let's say you're a general manager at a hotel. I'm a general manager. I'm burned out or I'm getting burned out. Hopefully, you do this exercise before you get burned out,
Yeah.
but like if you start leading up to that. But you pause a moment and you take a moment with yourself and you're just like, why am I doing this? Why did I choose to interview for this job to be a general manager at this hotel? What does it mean for me to be a general manager? Now, if I take a moment to say, you know what? My why could be I'm creating experiences not only for my team, but for my guests that are staying at the hotel. Or, my why is I get to create this opportunity for guests that are coming out of town for a variety of reasons. And I get to create moments here at this hotel that they're comfortable, they have a place to stay, a clean place to stay where they can get a good night's sleep. They can take a shower, maybe they can get some breakfast in the morning so that they can continue on their journey. So it's a moment to reflect to say why am I doing this? And
Hmm.
what is the impact that what I do happens? Like, what is my impact? And so when you're able to answer those two questions, why and what's my impact, then you're
Getting
able to take a
purpose.
deep, your purpose, you take a deep breath and you're like, okay, this is rough. However, why am I doing this for each and every one of my team members? I get to see them grow. I get to see them do things maybe they wouldn't be able to do beforehand. Or maybe my purpose is I get to see my team member get promoted to a general manager at another hotel. My purpose is that guest over there, they're coming in from out of town, they're exhausted. They still have another leg of their trip, but you know what? I'm going to provide the best stay for them so they're rested, they're comfortable, they got a full belly before they jump in their car first thing in the morning to head out on the next leg of their trip. Whatever it may be, as long as you're coming back and you're answering that why and answering what's my impact, it gives you a moment to reflect and take
Yes.
a deep breath, and that'll probably give you the oomph and the energy to get back at it.
So yeah,
Uh,
that's why I do this.
yeah,
And then you know what? If you're like, I can't find those answers, maybe it's time
that's
for a
okay,
change.
and that's
Yes,
okay.
that's
And
okay.
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But it's important to take that moment to ask those questions.
Yeah, 100%. And I love this. That made me think of one of my sales managers used to have a picture of our entire team at her desk. And she says, I have this here and I do this at every hotel because I want them looking at me because if I don't book the
Mm.
business, they don't put food on the table. They don't have rooms
Yeah,
to clean, they don't get hours, they don't get to buy their groceries. So
exactly.
I every day look at them and they're my why. I need to sell our
Mm.
hotel so that I can keep them their livelihood.
Keep them employed. Yeah,
Yeah, and
and
I that's
and
so
that's
I like literally gives me
stewarding.
goosebumps. And after
And
that,
that's
I did that
stewarding.
every position I had after that. I just
Uh,
loved that.
I love that.
Yeah.
That really gives you something extremely personal to
Hmm.
look at. Like the impact that you're making is personal because, like you said, if I don't do what has been entrusted to me, if I don't steward that responsibility, then the negative impact on that is all those people in this
Right.
picture looking at me suffer.
Hmm.
That's that's impactful.
Right. And that gives you purpose. Now, you've got 8 books. I've got 3 right here. There's just a million things I could ask you. So here's what I'm going to ask is, what is one thing I haven't asked you that you would really love to share with our audience? Maybe it's a strategy from one of your books, or maybe it's one of the messages you hold most dear in your heart. Is there something that you really want to share with the audience?
Oh goodness, that's what a big question, powerful question, and I feel like I want to steward it properly because
Right.
it's the impact that it could have helping other people. So what I'd like to share is it's a three-step thing that
Okay.
reminds me of kind of my process. I'm a very much a process person, but
Hmm.
it's think, speak, act. And so realizing that what you think influences how you speak, and how you speak influences how you act. So if you think negatively, more than likely that's going to influence the way you speak. You're going to speak negatively. And when you speak negatively, more than likely it's going to influence how you act and you're going to act negatively. So it all starts with the think. It's a choice. If you choose to think positively, then your speech and your actions will follow. If you choose to think negatively, then your speech and your actions will follow that as well. You can't think negatively and speak positively. It's just
Right.
extremely difficult. And even if you do pull it off, you're probably viewed as non-authentic.
Right.
So my process for me, again, just being a process person, is understanding it all starts right here. It all starts with your thinking
Hmm.
and what you fill your mind with. So if you're constantly on social media, if you're constantly watching really bad TV shows or news or whatever, and you're
Hmm.
constantly filling your mind with negativity, guess what you're going to think about? You're going to think negative things. And guess what you're going to speak? You're going to speak negative things. And guess how you're going to act? You're probably going to act negatively.
And guess
But if
what? That's going to be your results.
that's the outcome. Yes,
Right.
ma'am. So think, speak, act.
Now, what is next for Gary? Are you working on the next book? What is next for you? Hmm.
Actually, I am. I have another book that's in the
Oh,
works. I'm doing quite a bit of research with this one. So this one will
okay.
be um, probably, I'm trying something different. I said yes to a different approach, utilizing some research and um, some surveys, if you will, asking some questions and grinding data and everything. So
Okay.
I'm pretty excited about this next one because it's going to be a little bit different type of book than what I've done in the past. So I'm excited about this next one.
Okay. Well, I'm excited too. Any other intel you going to tell us what it's about or give us a little
It's if you've ever heard of the conscious or the conscious competence.
I have heard
It
of that.
it
Yeah.
is a it's a study that was done back in the 70s, and it's about unconscious competence or unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence. And so it's a series of way how you kind of build your awareness and build your competency through consciousness,
Oh,
awareness, and so forth. So it's a
interesting.
pretty yeah, it's something that just the good nerd in me got intrigued with. And so once I get kind of intrigued with something, I go down that rabbit hole and chase it until, it becomes a book.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get to our question from our last guest in just a second. But really quick, let's just think of three action items for our listeners today. What's three things
Mm,
they can go out and actually do after hearing this episode today? One, I love the think, speak, act.
mhm.
Put those three things in front of you. Think, speak, act. And when those negative thoughts come, turn around.
Yeah.
What else are you thinking would be some good action items?
So, good action item is find an opportunity to raise your hand.
Yes, love it.
And we
Today,
talked about,
raise your
yeah,
hand
raise your
today.
hand somewhere today. If you don't have time by the time you watch this, do it tomorrow, but find an opportunity to raise your hand. And we talked about that earlier. And then the second thing is, and there's I'm going to share a question in from
Okay.
my book that I think it is extremely valuable is what is your predisposed manner when faced with a challenge or a change as a leader? What's your predisposed manner when faced with a challenge? Are you
Okay.
positive or negative?
Right. Okay.
I want ask that question of yourself. When things change or things go wonky, how do I react to that?
Mm-hmm.
Answer that question honestly with yourself. And if you realize, you know what? Oh my God, when things change, I get negative or I shut down or whatever it is, that gives you an opportunity to say, you know what? I'm going to be intentional about the next change or the next
Mm.
wonkiness that comes because wonky's going to happen.
Wonky's gonna happen.
Wonky's
I
going to
love
happen.
that.
So,
And when you said that, I immediately went to myself and I was thinking about myself. And it also changes on who I'm with.
ooh,
Like if I'm with my team or my kids, I'm I'm positive. I'm like, we'll find
yeah,
a way. If I'm with my husband, we're gonna die.
exactly.
So think about that too. Maybe there's even like a
It's
shift you
the
need to make with
influence.
certain people in your life,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
exactly. I think that's a really hard question to ask yourself and
Yes.
and then truly answer it
Honestly.
authentically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Love it.
Yep.
Okay. James was our last guest, and here was his question for my next guest. What is a recent difficult situation that you faced, And what was the good thing that came from it?
Oh man, that's I was thinking like, what's your favorite color? Last difficult challenge that I faced and what was the outcome from that? Um, I'm going to give you a very generic answer because I think difficulty is a perception. And so if you perceive things as difficult, then they are. However, if you perceive things as opportunities versus being a difficulty,
Mhm.
then the outcome's going to be a little bit different, or your think, speak, act is going to be different. So if something happens to me and I immediately think this is a difficult situation, I'm probably going to respond to it differently than if something comes to me and I'm like, hey, this is an opportunity. I'm going to think differently. I'm going to speak differently.
Yes.
I'm going to act differently. So, difficult situations, opportunity type situations, they're the same, but it's all about the way you think about the situation. The
Mhm.
thing's not about the thing. It's how you
Your
place
perception.
value, your perception, how you add value to that thing. So remember, you're always going to have things come at you, but the thing is not about the thing. It's how you respond to it.
Well,
Did I?
James wants you to celebrate that.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. I can think of like a really simple one. Um, I was driving and I was in a hurry and I was, trying to get things done. And I remember going the wrong way and getting a
Oh,
little lost. And I was just so mad. I was so mad.
mm-hmm.
I don't have time for this. And then it was during the winter. And so all the houses, the street I ended up on, were so beautiful. They were all
Oh,
decorated with the lights and they all obviously worked together to kind of theme it out. And
yeah.
I just stopped for a minute. I literally stopped and pulled over just to take it all in. And I said, see, if I didn't get lost, I would have had that experience. Like, that is the simplest, goofiest example, but that was what, when he asked that question, it was one of the things that came on. Now, his was very serious. He got cancer,
Oh,
but there were so many beautiful things that came from it, and he celebrated those things. So,
yeah.
that was kind of why that's a question, a big question for
Ooh,
him. But yeah, it is about our perception and how
mm-hmm.
do we stay fascinated instead of frustrated,
Oh,
which
so
is
good.
first I need to get your question
Oh,
for our
now
next guest,
mine
Gary.
feels like a little letdown from his question because
No,
this was
no,
a
they're
pretty
all
brilliant
great.
question.
Hmm.
So I wrote down on my paper here is what's your favorite book and why?
I love that. That's one of my favorite questions.
All right.
What's your favorite book and why?
Yes.
Okay, love it. Well, coming from authors, we love that question. No.
No.
No, I'm such a voracious reader. I love to read and listen. I'm usually reading and listening at the same time of different books.
Yeah. Well, the question back to you is when you do an audiobook, and if you like that audiobook, do you end up buying the physical copy of the book?
Sometimes they have to be
Okay.
like that really wow one. There's
Yeah.
a book called, well, especially if it's a learning book, I end up
Hmm.
loving to get it so I can highlight and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if it's a novel, only if it's really like on my top 10.
Yeah.
So yeah, but if it's a learning book that I really love, for example, Unreasonable Hospitality. I
Oh,
have it in
such a
every
great
form.
book.
I have
Yeah.
it in paper, I have it in audio, and I have it in Kindle.
I love it. Yeah. It's an
Yes.
incredible book.
Okay, let's do a really fun, quick thing of
Okay.
super fantasticness. Which do you think is super fantastic? Early morning, late night?
Early morning.
Early morning, super
Oh,
fantastic.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What is super fantastic? Whiteboard brainstorm or long walk reflection?
Oh, whiteboard.
Whiteboard.
Yeah.
I'm a walker.
Oh, I like to write things down. That's that kind of tactile thing helps me think
Oh,
more and then visualize. I'm a very visual person, so whiteboard all day long. Now, if I did
okay.
it while walking, I'd totally forget by the time I got home what my brilliant idea was.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's why I always bring my notes.
Right.
Okay, a leader should always have the answers, yes or no.
No.
Agreed. This
No.
or that, super fantastic or not, book or podcast.
Book.
Yes. And no offense, right?
No, love podcasts. I do love a podcast, but there's nothing like holding a book
I
and
agree.
writing in it. Yeah.
I agree. All right, one more here. This or that, super fantastic or not, delegate it or DIY it.
Ooh, depends.
I know it
It's
really does depend.
yeah.
Well, Gary, tell everybody where they can learn more about you, follow you, be in your world, your super
Oh,
fantastic world.
well, you can find me on my website, thegarygregory.com. And you can also find me. I wrote another book called The Worst Leadership
Yes.
Manual Ever.
So
And
hilarious.
so,
It only got one star.
all right, if I could give it 0 stars, I would. If you want to have some fun with that, I actually created a website for that book.
Oh,
It's called worstleadershipinstitute.com. It is a fun, tongue-in-cheek approach to leadership, the worst way, if you will. And so if you want to check that out, it's a lot of fun.
I love that. And what gave you the idea to do that?
I don't know because I guess I've made enough mistakes and have been the worst leader many times in my career. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just kind of own up to it and write a book about it.
I just love that so much. And everybody loves to laugh. So, and
Yeah,
honestly, you probably see yourself a lot in there.
it
So,
too.
we all have those moments. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Well, Gary, it is always a pleasure to talk to you. I think you are super fantastic,
Oh,
and I
thank
really
you.
appreciate your time on the show and sharing your awesomeness with everyone.
Thank you. And I'm so glad I said yes to be on your show.
Me too. Thanks again. That's a wrap for today's show. Say yes to taking action and changing the world one yes at a time. And oh, my friend, will you say yes to review, like, and subscribe? The more yeses you give, the more juicy goodness I can bring to all of you wise pineapples. Cool or cool?